Ivy and Gecko acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and future. Welcome to Hearts and Minds. Our podcast episodes feature conversations with highly accomplished mining executives and board directors. We'll explore critical themes relating to leadership impact, staff engagement and culture development. So tune in, enjoy the conversations and prepare to be inspired. I'm Alana Bray-White, the Managing Director of Ivy and Gecko, and this is our podcast, Hearts and Minds.
I think one of the biggest challenge is just knowledge. And I mean that by people are wanting to advance their careers very quickly, and they can to some degree with the new technologies that are around. But what I'm finding is that there's just not the job experience that some people have. So if they're getting to a superintendent or above level, they might have only had 5 years experience. Where before they might have had 10 to 15 years experience. Yep. So decision making is not as well-rounded as it could be.
Our guest today is Mel Ren, an experienced human resources leader with a demonstrated history of working in the mining and metals industry. She has expertise in recruiting, competency assessment, workforce planning, organisational development, and remuneration and performance management. In her current position as Chief People Officer of ASX-listed Westgold Resources, Mel has recently led the integration of human resources capabilities associated with the acquisition of Karora Resources. In this episode, Mel shares insights that are sure to be valuable for other people leaders. Mel speaks candidly to us about her personal and professional challenges and how, with grit and some assistance from digital technologies, she has successfully managed a complex disability. This is a truly inspiring conversation and we hope you enjoy it.
Mel Ren, thanks for joining us on Hearts and Minds.
You're welcome.
You're our fourth guest from Westgold, would you believe?
Amazing.
Yeah. So
I'd have to follow, no doubt.
Yeah, well, Cheryl Edwards, your chairman, and she doesn't mind being called chairman as opposed to chairperson. We've had Wayne Bramwell, your MD and CEO, Dave Kelly, Ned, and yourself as Chief People Officer. So Cheryl's determined that she will have the most social media hits.
I'll try and outdo her today.
Well, good on you.
Yeah.
How's things been?
Pretty busy at the moment, yes. But that's a common theme at Westgold, I think. Yes.
Down in the coffee shop, you were telling me about your mini house venture. Tell us more.
Well, in my spare time, I like to renovate, of all things, and I didn't have time to do a whole house, so I thought, let's do a tiny house. Yeah. So I found an old donger on Facebook Marketplace for $5,000, gutted it and redid it. Got some trades to do certain things, but I like to be hands-on myself, so did a few things. And over the weekend we moved it down to Bridgetown to start an Airbnb down there.
You need to make sure you've got power for heating down there.
Yes, it was cold already and we're day 5 into winter, so yes.
Nice. So you're going to sneak away every Friday, does Wayne know this, and have a long weekend down in the Dogger?
Well, let's keep that between you and I, David.
Right,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm also being told by our producer, Ben Kostovich, that this is our 20th episode.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And would you believe only 2% of podcast programs survive their 20th episode?
Wow.
So we're in illustrious grounds there.
And it's the same age as me.
Yeah.
20.
Mel. So, but it's all about the quality of guests, isn't it? It's not the quantity, it's the quality that counts. Westgold's been through quite a transformative period over the last couple of years, and obviously with the Karora acquisition last year, I'm sure it's meant a lot of work for you as well as your executive colleagues. From a people perspective, what has it meant, the increase in size of your business now?
Well, we've gone from 1,000 to 1,500 employees and up to 2,000 workforce. So it's not doubled, but it's markedly bigger, but also with a different geographical location as well. So now in the Murchison and in the Southern Goldfields as well. So a spread is challenging, and adding a new business is also being challenging too, but rewarding.
So you've now got half a dozen underground gold mines and a number of processing plants?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, across both of the regions. Yep.
From the point of view of integrating cultures, Karora and Westgold, do you have any sort of comments or feedback on how that's going? Relatively early days, I suppose.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, we're coming up to 12 months. It was the 1st of August where we merged. I was reflecting on this. I think the culture piece has been challenging, bringing two organisations together. I think the interesting part was that it was a welcomed merge, so that was really helpful. Yeah. And we did a culture survey when we first started to get a bit of an understanding of where the two cultures aligned and where they didn't align. So we had 17 questions and we're aligned on 14 of those. Wow. So that was a handy tool to have to understand where we needed to focus our work on bridging those gaps with those small differences, not spend time on stuff that was already aligned.
Mel, this podcast, as you know, is all about sharing experiences and insights with people in the mining industry at either the executive level or the board level. What we like to do is focus on leadership and engagement of people and culture development. And the hope is that people that watch the podcast videos or listen to it on Apple or Spotify will be able to take some learnings and apply those to their own situations in order to become more effective at building valuable relationships in the workplace. So any experiences and insights that you can share along the way, we'd appreciate. Before we get stuck into it, let's delve a little bit into your background, your early years. Where did you grow up? What was it like?
I grew up in a very small country town in northwest Victoria called Karora. It is about 2.5 hours away from Bendigo. So Bendigo is known for its gold and the gold rush back in the day. So I knew about the mining industry at a very high level just because Bendigo is so historical. Spent a lot of time there growing up. But that was my extent of my knowledge of mining, just that there once was gold mining in Victoria and that was it. No family connection to mining whatsoever.
Yeah. Did you have a big family, a small family?
There's my mum and dad, and my dad's a shearer by trade and my mum is a office administrator, but they're both entrepreneurial. So we grew up managing hotels as well. So we travelled around the state and also over in WA. Yeah. Managing hotels and pubs, yeah. And running small businesses. So they're very entrepreneurial, my parents.
And where is the clan today? Are they spread all over the place or still in Victoria?
Yeah, all my family's still in country Victoria. Right. Yes, they've moved around a bit from Karora, but they're all still country folk. And my sister and my brother are both dairy farmers, and my parents have retired now from managing a hotel recently.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And school, did you enjoy it?
Hated it.
Why?
I was a hyperactive child and I had a learning difficulty that was undiagnosed until I was nearly 30. So school was really challenging for me, but I loved the social aspect of it, and growing up in a small town, it was either school, church or sport. I chose sport, so and I was quite good at it as a youngster, so got heavily involved in the community that way, but school was just a reason for me to play sport, really.
Are you happy to share anything about your disability?
Yeah, I got diagnosed with dyslexia and dysgraphia when I was 29. So I was going through university as a mature age student and I was really struggling, and I knew I'd always struggled, but I was like, this is really challenging for me. So I thought maybe it's time I get diagnosed or find out what's wrong. But it took me probably another 20 years after that to feel comfortable about talking about it.
I've heard of dyslexia, most people would have, but dysgraphia, what's that?
Dysgraphia is challenging writing sentences, so structuring sentences and putting thought around it. So I've got good comprehension and understanding, so if we talk about things I can comprehend, but it's reading and writing comprehension that was challenging.
And the nature of the job that you do and have done for a long time, how did you deal with this difficulty?
I learnt getting diagnosed that there was, through Spelled, is that there was a lot of tools. So this was, 20 years ago now, is that there was a lot of tools out there that were not known to the average person. So there's a lot of computer programs that would help me. So I would write emails or documents, run it through a computer system. So that turned into Grammarly, and now that's turned into AI, Copilot and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so in the early days it was very challenging for me, but I always got someone to proofread my writing before I'd submit anything because I knew that that was an issue for me.
Well, thank goodness for the internet
I know,
and all of the applications.
Yeah, it's been really life-changing for me, this AI, and the speed in which I can get work out now is also increased because I'm not having to get people to check and recheck my work.
Did you feel a sense of relief when you received the diagnosis? I mean, you
No.
must have been worried about it.
I was worried because I felt that I wasn't good enough, I guess, and I couldn't go to university because I didn't go to university till I was 27, 28.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle. So I thought, I've got to do something about it. If I want to further my career, I need to understand what's going on a bit more. But I didn't want to accept it, I guess, and there was a lot of stigma back then too, and it's obviously coming around a bit more now that, with ADHD and learning difficulties and that kind of stuff. But I felt that if I told people, that people wouldn't think I was not competent. So,
Good on you. And I'm assuming there's no cure,
No.
but there are. You manage it. You learn to adapt and use the tools available to you to get by and more than get by. I mean, to excel in what you do.
Yes, I've got to be very creative in stuff that I do. So I've got a good vocabulary because I have to figure out different ways to spell or write things because I can't see certain things when I'm writing them. So I have to navigate through different ways like that. Yeah,
that's quite an inspiring story, Mel.
Oh, thanks.
Good on you. Now, I know you've not been in the mining industry all of your career. I remember you saying that you were in financial services, in the media industry as well. As you reflect and look back at your career, how different were those environments and was it easy to transition into mining?
Yes, it was easy to transition into mining. I think growing up in the country and being a country girl is that I resonated more with probably blue-collar workers, if you want to call them that. So in the other industries that I worked in were more white-collar, and I just didn't click, I guess, with that type of workforce. So, so when I started in the mining industry, I was like, oh, you get the best of both worlds in this industry. So I really liked working with the guys and the girls on site and hearing their stories and, having something in common with those people of, we're out in the bush, I grew up in the bush, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was good.
That's one thing that Wayne Bramwell shared with me as well, that he is most happy when he's on site with the workforce, looking at the mines and the process plants and putting on the high vis, whilst he's clearly a senior executive and spends most of his time in corporate office, it's in the bush, so to speak, that he's most comfortable. And he said the best board meeting he's ever attended was on the beach. On one of his surfing trips, he dialed in.
Yeah, okay, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. When you're not concentrating on your work, Mel, what do you do to relax?
I like to cycle. I'm not doing it as much as I would like to, but I'm a big cycler. Well, I used to be a big cyclist. I used to ride 200 Ks a week, but not pushing that any at the moment. But as I mentioned also earlier, I love to renovate, so that is my passion. I'm a frustrated interior designer / builder. I did my degree in building and construction as well. I did that a couple of years ago while working full time because I've got an interest in it. And I think that was the only person in there that didn't work in the building industry when I was doing the course. So it's just for knowledge and awareness of what's going on in the building industry a bit more.
Have you cycled competitively?
I wouldn't say competitively. I'm a frustrated lycra wearer. I think it wasn't a thing growing up where I grew up. There was no bikes or anything like that. It was just netball, football, athletics. But I think if there was, I would have pursued it because I really enjoyed it. I do the charity rides, from Mandurah to Joondalup and that kind of stuff.
We've got the Tour de France coming up very soon.
We do, yes. I've been watching the Tour d'Italia
yeah,
as well.
So
the
have
Giro. Yeah, it's good.
The best thing about watching these programs is the scenery, the
Beautiful.
vision from the helicopter or the drones these days.
Yeah, it's
the countryside Italy and France. It's amazing.
It is, yes.
Let's delve into leadership effectiveness and get some thoughts from you, Mel. What are the personal qualities and behaviours that, in your mind, define great leadership?
I think for me, great leaders, you need to be empathetic, trustworthy, decisive, and also flexible. So if you're rigid in your approach, you can start making bad decisions because you're just fixated on something. So, and you've got to be open to you not knowing everything at all the time. People have, at all levels, have great ideas, and you've got to be open to those, not just I'm the chief people officer and what I say goes. So, yeah, I think that's what leadership to me is.
Most people say empathy, and it's so true. People won't give you their hearts and minds until they feel that you really do care about them. And I think also you mentioned being open-minded to alternative points of view. And I think to do that very well, you need a certain degree of maturity and confidence in yourself. Because unless you've got those things, it's easy to become a little bit defensive and to push back on alternative points of view that maybe you haven't explored yourself. So, these are all important qualities and as you say, go to build trust in relationships. Tell us about some of the challenges of your work. What have you learned about yourself and what it means to be a good leader?
Current challenge, there's a few at the moment, but the biggest challenge for me at the moment is the volume of work that we have to do at Westgold. Also making sure that the day-to-day gets done efficiently and maintaining relationships as well. So as you mentioned, we've been through a transformative phase with a merger. Underestimated the work that was involved in that. And then we've also implemented a new HR payroll system, new contracts. We've done a lot of work that's transformative for the HR department and for the business, but still doing the day-to-day has been quite challenging. And I think what I've learnt about is just being consistent with your approach and not, being frustrated. You can get frustrated, obviously, at times, but not displaying that. So just being consistently calm and cool when people are frustrated with the amount of work that's going on.
Yeah, easier said than done.
It is, yeah.
How big is your team, Mel, your people team?
I've got a pretty big team. So I've got some site-based HR advisors and superintendents on site, which is amazing. And then I've got an advisory team, a projects team in Perth that are looking after all the transformative stuff. And then we have a recruitment team, a mobilisation team, a wellness team, and I look after the apprentices as well.
Presumably you have lots of teams, discussions and meetings with your broader team and obviously you go to site from time to time as well.
Yeah, I try and get to site as room required, but we rolled out this new HR payroll system, which was a big deal for our business. It's a huge investment, so I spent 3 weeks on site consecutively rolling that out to the workforce because it's such a geographical spread. We needed to do it all at the same time. So we all rolled our sleeves up and got it done.
Is this the first time you've had direct exposure to an integration of businesses, an acquisition?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, I've had a reverse takeover, but that was, a small company, but to this size, yes.
Yeah. I was reading your Westgold's sustainability report from last year and there's reference to a mental health and wellbeing program, which I think is called Strong Minds.
Correct.
That interests me. Talk to me a little bit about it and what's the objectives of it and how do you roll that program out? It's
managed through SOA, the former, I think he's an NRL player. Him and his team go out to site and talk about mental health challenges for workers working remotely. And it's a program that is not just we do a rollout and we do one presentation and that's it. They commit to coming back to 6 months and then we build workplace health champions as well. And they get trained up to be champions also. So that if they're identifying people in need, that they can raise those concerns with the appropriate people. So, so it's a long program that's embedded into our business and continues to be embedded. Yeah.
How long has the program been in the business?
We'll be coming up to 12 months, so
Okay.
we've finished rolling it out, the main program in the Murchison region, but we're now rolling it out in the southern region.
Yeah. And how much participation has there been, and what sort of feedback have you received from the coalface, so to speak?
Well, everybody's involved in it, and the feedback has been really positive, is that they've got someone to talk to. We've also got wellness advisors on sites as well, and that's a good conduit as well for people to talk to people about the struggles that they're going through. So it's been a really positive impact to our business. Yep.
And I'm sure it supports the engagement of your people, for them to know that, you're putting your money where your mouth is and investing in programs for their general well-being.
Correct. Yep.
Let's talk a bit about Westgold's employer value proposition. How do you pitch that to prospective employees, and how do you believe that Westgold is different from the many competitors in the marketplace who are all vying for good quality mining professionals?
It's something that we're still working and evolving. I've been in the business for 2 years now, and we still haven't got it right. I'm not going to profess that we've got it right, but we want to make sure that it is a well-rounded approach for people, and we want to make sure that people feel like they've got a meaningful and prosperous career at Westgold, and if they have hit a ceiling at Westgold, that's okay, that they can go off to another company, but they've been given the adequate training, support to be the best versions of themselves, wherever that may be. I see it as a community service that we're doing for the industry. If we can have people performing at a high level and Westgold's trained them, that's great feedback.
It's interesting, when we did our research for our book Smart Value, we surveyed a lot of mid-tier mining companies, most of them gold, and we did look at their value statements and their purpose and mission statements, and to be honest, we found that many of them were very bland and seemingly off the shelf. They all sounded the same. The companies that seemed to do best in terms of retaining their people were those that curated different value propositions to pitch at different segments of the employee base. So these companies recognise that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You need to look at the individual that you're seeking to attract and secure into your business, and then adapt the value proposition somewhat to reflect what that person's looking for. So it's a more nuanced approach. But companies like Evolution Gold, for example, and IGO seem to do that particularly well.
They do, yes.
And I love IGO's values, run through the sprinklers, for example. I spoke to Sam Retallick about this. It immediately creates a vision in your mind of having fun and taking a bit of a risk, and beats the old, more traditional values of transparency and accountability and performance. So communicating that vision and communicating the values is very important, that you do that well.
Yes.
Mel, what's your view on providing office staff with workplace and work hours flexibility? Is it possible to have a meeting of the minds without necessarily a meeting of the bodies? What's your point of view?
I think there's a balance that you have to take with this, is that I think it's about trust. You trust your employees to make the right decisions. For example, if they need to be in a face-to-face meeting, that they know that that's what they need to be doing. Conversely, that you're trusting that they're doing the work at home if they're working remotely, but also knowing that they can have that flexibility to go off for a medical appointment, look at the kids' sports day or whatever it is. I think in the work that my team do, it's quite obvious if the work's not being done. If in recruitment, for example, if we're not recruiting people, it's pretty obvious. So, I think you can balance it, and I think you need to in this day and age. Workforce want more flexibility, and you have to see how you can accommodate that.
Yeah, they certainly do, and again, that was one of the the learnings from the research that we undertook is that professionals do enjoy a balance. They don't want to work from home all the time, even if they could do. They do need the direct social engagement of a team of people. But depending on the nature of the job, I suppose, and also the size of the company, I think you need to strike an appropriate balance for the nature of your business.
Yeah, I think also when you're first new to a business, creating those relationships is really important, and that's hard to do via a Teams scenario. We learnt that in COVID, but it's not impossible, but it's more challenging. It takes a bit longer than it would in a face-to-face arrangement.
Yeah. Hiring people for culture, Mel, do you have any thoughts on that? We can all look at a CV and talk to referees about relevant experience and qualifications and so on, but how do you get the fit right?
I think this is really challenging for any organisation. You spend, potentially only half an hour with these individuals that you're meeting for a role that's a really critical. I think every role is critical in our business. So that's a challenge. I don't think we have got it right just yet, but we do focus on values-based questions in our interview process as well. But as I said, I don't think we've got it 100% right just yet.
Yeah, and nor does any other company. It's when you're dealing with human beings, you can never eliminate risk. All you can do is mitigate it and reduce the risk by using as many good tools as you can. Certainly as a career recruiter, one of the things I like to do, in addition to having initial telephone screening discussions with candidates, is meet with them face-to-face wherever possible, take them out for a coffee or a lunch, see how they interact socially with people around, waiters, waitresses. Do they say thank you? These professional courtesies do give some insight and indication of how they might behave more generally in the workplace. And if you place importance on those things, which I do, they're important signals. So I think getting people into different environments, assessing how they react, also giving candidates exposure to a number of different people within your environment, not just a single interview, but 3 or 4 interviews. And also when it comes to reference checking, and some people are cynical about the value of reference checking, I do them, and I like to talk with people who might not necessarily appear listed on a CV. Yeah. So people, they might be customers, they might be suppliers, contractors, as well as ex-bosses, people who have a different angle on and experience of that candidate. And if you ask the right questions, you can get some very useful insights into somebody.
Yeah, we do for our entry level roles with our truck drivers, nipper and drillers offsiders, for example, that they don't need to be educated in terms of a qualification. So we do assessment centres, and they're a half day arrangement where they get to go through our simulator as well down in our Maddington facility. Underground operating is not for everybody, so at least they get a bit of a flavour of what's it like to be in the dark for a little while, but also they get to meet with other members of the business, not just the recruitment team, and they're being assessed while they're on, having a coffee, interacting with people. They let their guard down, and you get to spend a bit more than 30 minutes talking to people. So we're finding that very, very helpful, and how people interact in stressful environments and things like that. So that's been really helpful for us too.
When it comes to remuneration, is there a way that you can reward people for supporting the values of your business or complying with the values of the business? How do you weave that into the remuneration and reward system that you have?
Yes, we're not there on that one just yet. We are in the process of communicating our strategic plan for it up to FY2030. And with that, we'll be rolling out our new mission statement, values. Our values won't change, but embedding those a little bit more as well. But from a remuneration perspective, we're not there just yet, but we've got plans to start turning it into a values-based organisation that way. So we're rewarding good behaviour, and they're demonstrating the values at all times. So we've got a plan, but we just haven't executed it yet.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. And you know, it's all about leadership, setting the right example, isn't it, and modelling the behaviours that you want to be replicated down the line. So important that you've got people at different points in the hierarchy, if you like, of a structure who are made of the right stuff and who, you know, are able to set that example. From a P&C perspective, Mel, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges facing the mining industry today?
I think one of the biggest challenge is just knowledge. And I mean that by people are wanting to advance their careers very quickly. And they can to some degree with the new technologies that are around. But what I'm finding is that there's just not the job experience that some people have. So if they're getting to a superintendent or above level, they might have only had 5 years experience, where before they might have had 10 to 15 years experience. Yeah. So decision making is not as well-rounded as it could be, for example, because they haven't had those years of experience. So it's just lack of knowledge. So as an industry, we've got to try and figure out how to bridge that gap quickly.
Yeah, and it's a supply problem, isn't it? I mean, the tertiary institutions as well as the TAFEs are simply not producing enough graduates to satisfy the demand. You know, I was speaking with Jim Walker, the chair of Diggers and Dealers, and he's on the state government training board as well. And it really is a challenge and a frustration. And I think to some extent it might reflect for a bit of an image problem that the mining industry has, particularly with the younger people, who might perceive, you know, some well publicised mistakes by some of the bigger miners over the years, and they might see look at the destruction of the environment or disrespect for heritage culture, but they don't fully recognise, you know, the contribution of the mining industry as well to the way that we live.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do we have an image problem?
I think we do have an image problem. I think it's getting better, but we've still got a long way to go. If I think about when I started in the mid-2000s in this industry, the behaviours really haven't changed that much. We're just dealing with them better, which is great. But yeah, there's still those behaviours that are creeping in. But I think also the younger generation want different things now to their work life and what they want out of their life. Yeah. Gone are the days where you have a job for life and be grateful for that.
Yes.
They've gone. So, and we've still got some of that mentality is like, oh, you should be grateful for this and that. And I'm guilty of doing that myself. You know, it's like, oh, when I was your age, you know, I was working for 20 cents a minute or whatever, you know, but but it's not like that anymore. So I think we've just got to, as we mature as leaders in age and in wisdom, is that we're asking people what they actually want. But also there's a balance of not giving them everything that they want, because then there's a take culture.
Yeah, well said. And it's about education as well, isn't it? We need to get younger kids, even at primary school level, definitely at secondary school level, into the mining environment so they can actually witness what goes on and help them understand that if it wasn't for the minerals and the metals that we extract and process, we wouldn't have computers, we wouldn't have mobile phones. There's so much that we take for granted today that you know, the mining industry gives us. And if we want to eventually make significant progress towards decarbonising the planet, we need more minerals, lithium and the like, for renewable energy.
And now we take a short break to acknowledge our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Halo Civil Engineering. Halo is a multidiscipline civil contractor that specialises in the delivery of complex civil projects across defence, infrastructure, energy and resources. A West Australian company committed to delivering dynamic solutions with a focus on zero harm, while having a positive impact on their industry, clients and the people they serve. For more information, search for Halo Civil Engineering on socials or visit halocivil.com.
Is your business ready to amplify its voice? At Podwave Studios, we offer professional video podcast production services that help you connect with clients, build your brand, and grow your audience. From corporate messaging to thought leadership, we've got you covered. Book your session at podwavestudios.au today.
As the only executive search and leadership consulting firm to be admitted membership of the Minerals Council of Australia, Ivy & Gecko is uniquely resourced to advocate for the interests of our exploration, project development and mining clients.
Let's talk a little bit about AI. Neither you or I, Mel, are technology experts, but I'm interested to what extent currently is AI utilised by Westgold and what's the impact of it?
I'd say we're at the beginning of our journey with AI. So we've just started using Copilot as an example. But I have been working with a consultant to try and understand. It's work that they haven't done before, so we're a bit of a guinea pig for them. Is try and understand what part of the jobs now can be done by AI. What's the cost implication of that, and what kind of capex you need to use to buy that, so it's not just a like-for-like saving. Yeah. But then, okay, we don't want to lose our employees if they're losing like a 20% of their job, for example. What skills are we going to need in the future, and how do we get our workforce there? Because we're still going to need people. It's just a different look of how we're going to use people. Yeah. So we've started to think about that, as I said, at the beginning stages of it. But I think this is really interesting work, especially as a HR professional, to try and figure out what's our workforce going to look like even in 5 years' time. I think it's going to be remarkably different than what it is today.
Yeah, I think so. It's not a linear growth, is it? It's really the curve is very steep now towards implementing generative AI in particular. And it's a matter of working out which workers and which employees are capable of adapting and learning new skills, and not everybody is as adaptive as others. Some will be left behind, but others, hopefully the majority, will continue to play a valuable role.
Yeah, I think with the generation coming in that are computer natives, that will definitely help with that transition. The dinosaurs like myself that didn't have that growing up, it'll definitely be a challenge as we the backstage of our career.
Now it's your turn. Do you have a question without notice for me?
What do you love about what you do?
What do I love? Good question. Look, I love the people, perhaps stating the obvious. You meet, in my industry, executive search, you meet so many different people, even though you're fairly narrowly focused on one industry, mining, in my case. Such a diversity of people. I enjoy listening to the anecdotes of very experienced people. My dad was in the mining industry in the 1970s, and I remember growing up in Goldsworthy, now defunct as a small iron ore mining company, but was eventually gobbled up by BHP. But as a kid growing up on site, where you lived in a community, there was no FIFO in the mid-1970s. You were a resident on site, and if you were lucky and your pay grade was high enough, you lived in a cyclone-proof house. If you didn't, you lived in a caravan that was strapped down, and that's where we lived. So me and my family, the five of us, lived in a big caravan, which was secured as best as it could be to the ground, so that when the inevitable cyclones rolled around, you'd stay put. So never forget those days. Even though I've not personally worked in the mining industry, I had a father that did, and I just was surrounded by mining people. I love it. In terms of the nature of the work I do, it's partly BD. It's developing trust-based relationships with people, earning their respect, earning their confidence, and the only way you can do that is by absorbing as much information and knowledge as you can about the challenges that they're facing and using your skills to try and present solutions. So yeah, that's what I do, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I've seen a lot of change. but mostly positive. The mining industry has progressed a great deal in many ways over the last few decades. Let's play a word association game.
Okay.
We'll have a bit of fun.
All right.
If you try and give me a 1 or 2 word response to these statements or words. Ukrainian President Zelensky.
He's courageous.
Greenpeace.
Important work.
The likelihood of Australia becoming a republic by 2050.
I think it'll happen. Just.
By 2050.
Yeah.
Good on you. I hope so. Nuclear power generation in Australia.
Has positive and negatives.
Needs to be on the table for consideration, do you think?
Yes. I think everything needs to be on the table for consideration, considering the turmoil of the world at the moment.
What are you most optimistic about?
I'm most optimistic about my job, I guess. I'm optimistic that I can make a difference in people's days or life. They might not remember it right now, but maybe they'll remember it in years to come. So I'm optimistic that we can make a difference and not do the same stuff that everybody else has been doing. I want to do things differently.
What's a big risk that we're not paying enough attention to?
Trump.
What a mess.
It is a mess.
Yeah.
My husband is American and we will not be travelling back to America in this 4 years.
Whereabouts from the States is Sean from?
He's from Alabama.
Alabama.
Yes, yep.
And he's rather tall, I hear.
He is rather tall, yes. An ex-basketball player, so yes.
At the professional level?
Yes, well, semi-professional, yes. He came over to Australia to play basketball, yeah.
When you think about people who've shown great leadership in any field of endeavour, who do you think of? Who do you most admire?
There's not any one particular person, but the qualities that I admire in a great leader is someone that trusts that you can do your job and do it well. I think that's one of the best qualities that Wayne has. He's like, you're the expert in this particular field, not me. He challenges when he needs to, but he definitely understands that he's not the expert in that. So he's got a saying, trust but verify. So we do a lot of that. The other good qualities of leaders that I've had before when I reflect on those, and I've had some great, strong female leaders in my career, which is amazing. And the common themes of those is that they're very empathetic. And I guess in HR, we see a lot of things that people are going through, so you have to be. They make really quick and decisive decisions. And they back themselves and they back their teams.
When you're saying these things, who are you thinking of in particular?
I've got a couple of names that I can share with you. So Linda O'Farrell, I worked with her at Mount Gibson, and then she went to Fortescue, and I was lucky enough to work with her again there. And when I was at Fortescue, I had the opportunity to work with Andrea Chapman, who's now at Mineral Resources, great operator, very good at her job. And then also I've worked with Sam Retallick at IGO as well. And then one of my colleagues that I've grown up with, I guess we've come through the ranks together, is Dee Delborello. We have a lot of fun, her and I, when we work together, and she really hones in that, we do important work, but it's not life or death work.
What's a non-fiction book that you found particularly valuable?
Oh, now you're exposing my weaknesses here. I'm not really a book reader. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do listen to a lot of leadership podcasts. I'm a bit of a geek with that. I listen to a lot of IR podcasts, so you've got to keep up to date with what's happening in the IR space because that's ever moving. But someone who I find really inspirational is Brene Brown. I think she's very funny in her delivery and just very easy to understand, some really complex stuff that she's talking about. She really simplifies it for the average person, which I think is amazing.
I listen to podcasts too, usually early in the morning when I'm going for a walk. I listen to some industry-specific ones, including The Money of Mine.
I listen to them too. Yes,
Maddie Michaels recently left the podcast,
I heard,
but the other two fellows seem to be continuing with it, which is really good.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot about mergers and acquisitions, and through those guys, the behind closed doors dealings, I guess, of that kind of part of the business.
Yeah, they're smart, knowledgeable
Very
people.
smart,
And I spoke to Matty Michael a couple of weeks ago, and he's agreed to come on the podcast as a guest. So I'm looking forward to delving into his background and
that'd be interesting.
trying to work out what he's got in mind to do going forward.
Yep.
What's an unpopular opinion that you hold?
Oh, I don't know if I hold an unpopular opinion, and I don't know whether I can say it on a podcast, even if I did.
Well, it's just you and me.
I work in HR. I could get cancelled.
Only if you sort of engage in social media. If you're like me, you don't.
No.
So you can afford to have unpopular opinions.
I scroll, but the topic of mine is home renovation, so it's not that interesting, really.
Hey, what's the best career or business advice you've been given?
I think the best career advice I've been given is trust yourself. You got good instincts, trust yourself.
Do you have a productivity hack, a daily habit or routine that you think would be useful for other people to adopt?
I think it's different for everybody, but when I was doing my cycling, like I'd ride to work and ride home from work, so that was a good opportunity to unwind before I got home. And then be present when I'm at home. I'm still working on that part at home bit, but it helps to push the day's troubles away or the conversations that you've replayed over in your head. By the time you get home after your half an hour bike ride or your exercise, whatever you do, you've unpacked it and you're ready to be present at home.
Do you ride on the main road or the pathway?
I ride on the pathway. I'm too nervous to ride on the road. I'm a very nervous rider.
And I'd imagine I must admit, occasionally I'll cop I'll throw a bit of advice to cyclists on the road, who are sometimes a hazard.
They are
to cars and pedestrians. Final question, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self to help you lead a better quality life?
This is a really good question, David. I was thinking about it. I think I've lived a pretty good life. I didn't think I was going to amount to much growing up. I thought with my challenges, I was very good at typing and at sport growing up. So I thought I was either going to be a receptionist or a EA, or I wanted to play netball for Australia. Wasn't good enough for that one, obviously. But the typing, I just took opportunities when they came. I never knew anyone in HR. How I got into HR is very random, and I just loved it. And I think that's where I've this is where I'm supposed to be. So I think if I was talking to my 25-year-old self, I'd be like, just go with every opportunity that you get given because you don't know where it's going to take you.
Well, as Jay Klein told me, opportunity doesn't knock on the door. You have to go out and find it and seize it and take advantage of it. And I think you've done that, Mel, in your career. And some of the things you've said to me today I find quite inspiring. You've been faced with personal challenges and you've met them head on and you've dealt with them. You've been pragmatic and you get on with it and do it well. So thanks for being a guest on Hearts and Minds. And I've just got to make sure that you don't get as many social media hits as Cheryl, but we'll have to work that out.
Yeah, we'll work it out. I will hit it about at least 50 times myself.
And thanks to Ben Costa-Rich at Podwave Studio for making this episode happen. And if you want to learn more about mining industry leadership and engagement and culture development, I can recommend a good book, Smart Value. There's some really good anecdotes in there from mining leaders and some good advice. So thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Hearts and Minds. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a rating or share it with a friend. And don't forget to follow us and connect on social media for updates on all of our upcoming guests. I'm Alana Bray-White, and I look forward to you joining us for our next episode.